Good evening, I'm Sintung and you're watching a special edition of Agenda Awani, discussion leading up to the Budget 2014 announcement this Friday. And today we'll be talking about the tourism sector. And joining me in the studio, I have with me is Hamza Rahmat, President of Malaysia Association of Tour and Travel Agents, MATA. Hi. And next to him we have a young entrepreneur, Muhammad Faitullah Harun, Director of Ports Backpackers Home. Now if you look at tourism industry, it's quite an exciting sector because seeing as too we have Visit Malaysia 2014, and we also announced that we want to increase tourist arrivals by 28 million, which is projected to bring in about 76 million in revenues. But if we put numbers aside first, to get there, let's also take a look at where does Malaysia stand at the moment in terms of the tourism sector. And we look at more people are traveling with increasing mobility, better, higher income. But where do Malaysia stand and where are the opportunities do you see? Jai Hamza, from your opinion.
Okay. Malaysia, we have to look at, comparatively, we have to look at our neighbors. On our own, yes, we are already there actually. For many years, we have been there. We have always been very, very close to our neighbors, Singapore and Thailand. And this is why we have to, keep the pace there, because Thailand is very, very aggressive. So is Singapore. And the new emerging neighbor that's coming up very strongly now is actually Indonesia. Yes, they are coming up also very, very strong. So in this region, the four of us is.
Aside from, let's say, looking at just at tourist numbers, we look at the quality of tourists and maybe perhaps the attractions that we have. We have been a top tourist destination in the world. In fact, we are the 10th most visited place in the world. But how do we need bring that factor perhaps to boost tourism to the next level?
Okay, the thing is this, we have to have more. Actually, right now, currently, what Malaysia has is only, currently what we have, when we talk about Malaysia currently, we talk about Johor Bahru. Johor Bahru, we talk about the...
In terms of new developments.
New developments, in terms of tourist attractions. So besides that, at the moment, the rest of the others is all quite... It's quite stagnant, it has always been there. So for now, it's always Legoland. On the lips of every tourist right now is Legoland. So anything that they want to do is also Legoland. So Legoland is selling by itself right now. So what's next after this? Soon it's going to be still again.
So that would mean that most of our tourist arrivals are also from our neighboring country, which is Singapore and Thailand.
Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia. Indonesia is coming in quite strongly, and they are coming in from Singapore. So this is why the development in the Iskandar area is also very, very important for us. Touching on that, actually, we are planning for the high-speed train coming from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur. In fact, I think the government should also look at extending a stopover, intermediate stopover in Malacca, in such a way that they have to follow some of the German, in Germany, the German model. For instance, from Cologne to Frankfurt City, they have to go via...
I have been on that route before.
Yes. It's only 45 minutes if it's on express non-stops. But then if you have a one stopover in Segil, one of the city, one of the towns, so that will help. So in this aspect, Malaysia should consider Singapore, Kuala Lumpur via Malacca, and then maybe perhaps a new Malacca town, a new town, a new city.
Looking at the same strength that we have, but to revitalize it in a different manner. Okay, I'd like to go to Harun, because you're a young entrepreneur, avid backpacker who eventually started his own business in the took over a business in Backpackers Home. And we look at tourist arrivals, and we look at there's an increasing trend of people traveling independently, and this itself is an opportunity. And where do you see why did you get into the backpackers business in the first place?
Yeah, because for me, I like the freedom and the independent opportunity to do things on my own. And for me, I see Malaysia, we are located strategically in Southeast Asia, and we are actually in between Thailand and Singapore. And Thailand, Cambodia and Vietnam are among well-targeted locations among backpackers all around the world. So what we can do right now is actually to bring Malaysia to be part of these new tourism products.
How is it doing right now in terms of your views about on backpackers? Because backpackers, we often have that perception that backpackers are do not spend as much, but that could be a mistake because they could save up on accommodation.
Yes.
They spend a lot in other areas.
Because if we compare between backpackers and the general tourists, backpackers tend to stay longer compared to the general tourists, which means they eventually will still spend more. Even though they prefer to stay in a budget accommodation, they rely mostly on public land public transportation. But in the end, because they stay longer, that means they will spend more in our country. Yeah.
Okay. And we also look at some of the opportunities. Perhaps you also run a business, I mean the adventures business. We look at how we can also tap into our local products that we currently have. Like you say, we have Malacca and we have all these places like UNESCO rated places. Like, but how do we bring that to the next level, and what is lacking at this moment?
Yeah, I agree about what Encik Haji Hamzah just mentioned just now. We need to really improve our public transportation network. For example, the high-speed train between KL to Singapore, that will definitely help to boost our tourism a lot. Because first of all, if I compare, for example, in countries like New Zealand, Europe, they have these specially designed trips and tours for backpackers. And for example, the Eurail Pass, which is widely purchased by backpackers when they travel around Europe. So we can do the same, but it will be a long term for us to develop. But when we reach to that point, it will be a very booming sector for us. Because I see in traveling, we have two different types of customers. We have the general tourists, which we have already developed. We have lots of tourists from all over the world coming to Malaysia. But at the same time, we have another sector which is booming, which is the backpackers tourism. Yeah.
Okay.
So what we can do, for example, we can actually design trips or tours, like for example, 21 days backpacking trip around Peninsular Malaysia, or a 1 month Borneo overland camping trip.
That's where Mata would come in. But are we actually looking at that sector at the moment?
So for instance, I just touched back on the train things. Okay, if we have the high-speed trains, the connectivity will be Singapore, and I mentioned just now earlier, before you touch Kuala Lumpur main train station or central station, you should pass through KLIA. It is a must things to do, because why then you will be capitalized on the aspect of connectivity between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur, KLIA per se, because the connectivity will be just within 2 hours, because with the high-speed train this is possible. And at the same time, when you have an intermediary stopover in Malacca, actually you're pushing up Malacca as a destination, tourist destination. In that respect, what I see that, you know, Malacca, you can develop a new city, like what we did for Putrajaya in Kuala Lumpur, and then we still can maintain the whole historical city part of Malacca and preserve that. So this is going to be a tourist icon in itself, yes.
I have to go for this commercial break, but when we come back, we talk about preservation and maybe looking at what we currently have, our heritage. We can look at our museums that we have, rich in culture, but how do we make it a tourist-centric area? Yes, we could have the connectivity, but apart from that, what more does it take? Promotion, infrastructure, even talent itself. I mean, 1 in 12 jobs in the world is in the tourism sector, and actually more and more young people want to be involved in the tourism sector, but maybe it's not seen as a lucrative business, or maybe something as a career development, I mean career path. If you look at tour and travel operators and agencies, we tend to see it maybe perhaps as a sunset industry, because more and more people are going towards independent traveling. But perhaps that's not true. We want to take a look at that and how we could help incentivize private players like yourself and yourself with this upcoming budget, and we'll talk about that shortly after the break. Stay with us. Hi, we are still on the discussion on our tourism sector leading up to the Budget 2014 announcement. Joining me in the studio today is the President of MATA, Cik Hamzah, and also Waharun, who is the owner of Backpackers Home. So earlier we were just talking about how do you want to get 28 million visitors. We have the products already.
Yes.
The key is to make it tourist-centric, attraction spot, and we are competing against places like Thailand, shopping heaven. We're competing like Jakarta. We're competing with all these other competitors around this region. So where do you think we could tap into? Should focus in?
Okay, from the travel agent's perspective, basically, product-wise, attraction-wise, we have it all there. What is lacking in Malaysia right now today, when it comes to compete with these places, especially Indonesia, Singapore, and Thailand, is on the transportation aspect of it. Because unfortunately, in Malaysia, due for some factors, etc., whatsoever, our vehicles are not on par. At one stage, we are ahead of our neighbors. Today, we are lagging.
Is this one of the challenges that MATA is facing?
This is one of the challenges the industry, not only MATA members as an industry, as a tourism industry, this is our main problems.
In terms of quality of transportation?
Quality of transportation. There are certain models which is being restricted. We are not allowed to import, or we are not allowed to, we are not allowed to use because there's no import permit for such models. Right. And the other thing is that there's no real incentive with regards to these vehicles in terms of taxes, excise duties, etc. So, it is just not competitive enough. And as far as the coaches is concerned, our coaches, we cannot bring in CBU units. Even if you can bring in the CBU unit, the cost of bringing in is very high. So these are the challenges. I think this is where actually the industry or the relevant ministry has to relook into it if they are serious to bring in, to bring the tourism level to boost to the next level. Yes,
okay.
To upgrade it, because our transportation is so much left to be seen. Yes.
Okay, I'll go to Waharun. As an entrepreneur yourself, running a business as a small player in this big industry, what sort of challenges do you face?
Challenges, of course, the first thing is the capital. Yeah, but that one is more on a personal challenge. But in terms of the industry, because I'm in the backpackers industry, so for me, one of the biggest challenges is actually to get recognition and support from the approval authority as well as from the Tourism Malaysia. I think what's important is for Tourism Malaysia to involve backpackers more in the marketing side, because we are not really well known as a backpackers country compared to Thailand or Cambodia or Vietnam, and we are actually located very close to them. What I see, we may compete with them in terms of travel and tourist products, but in backpackers we can actually collaborate with them. We can actually network with them. Like for example, one of the things that I have in mind is actually to network around with other backpacker hostels around Southeast Asia, where we can actually do like a promotion or a membership card. Because most backpackers that come to Southeast Asia, they like to spend here for months. They spend like 2 months in Thailand, 1 month in Vietnam, for example, 1 month in Cambodia. I've met some backpackers that have actually spent 3 months in Malaysia, because they have like many countries around the world, they have 3 months tourist visa, so they can stay longer in Malaysia. So if we can really do this network with them, it can really help us boost in this sector of tourism.
Yeah, in fact, if I may add, I think the backpackers, actually, they are the tourists. They can be our ambassadors, because they spend a long time here. They experience Malaysia. Once they goes home, once they goes back to their countries, they can start to sell Malaysia, because they are the one that really, going through every niche
really
and corners
experience
and really
Malaysia.
experience on the ground. So, whether it's bad or good experience, hopefully everything is good experience, and then they'll sell the country much better, and then they'll bring in more tourists, Yeah.
How do you see that working together? Like you have somebody like yourself, and then you're representing tour and travel agents. Because at this moment we look at it separately, perhaps, like tour and travel, group packages, independent traveling. But if you could just put this together and gel it, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree with that, because for me, it's not like backpackers will operate independently compared to travelers and tours, because I've seen many backpackers hostels, they have like deals and contracts with travel agents. They actually bring more guests to buy these travel packages. For example, if you see the backpacker hostel around Kuala Lumpur, actually they have deals with Taman Negara National Park, for example. They have deals with Perhentian Islands, with Langkawi. So all these guests, they don't have a pre-planned trip before they come to Malaysia. So they normally book these packages when they are in the backpacker hostel itself. Yep.
Right, for us as a travel agent, we sell anything under the sun. For us, basically, in the tour package, if you look at the tour package, it comprises of accommodations. So therefore, accommodation, backpackings, hostels, etc., is considered accommodation. So whether it's hotels, rooms, whether it's hostel room, etc., is still an accommodation. So this is one part of our tour components, besides food, attractions, and transportations.
Okay. I have to go for a short commercial break, another break shortly. But before that, I will talk about budgets coming up, and what are your wish lists for this budget 2014?
Our wish list?
Besides transportation and permit vehicles and vehicles permit, what are the areas you would like the government to focus on?
Okay, number one, the air accessibility, especially to Kuching and especially to Sabah and Sarawak. Particularly, Sarawak is Kuching and Sabah is Kota Kinabalu, because of the. I mean, that is the main point of the gateway point of these two states. It has to be more. I mean, it has to be opened up more frequencies towards that. And right now, actually, Sabah is gaining very popular. Popularity is gaining very high. For that matter, in some countries, I was told that China is looking into Sandakan. And with what sometimes it's quite strange, tourism. When something happened in Lahad Datu, so everybody wanted to go there so much after everything all subsided. So this is, a new
tourism opportunity.
It becomes a new tourism opportunity. Yes, it becomes a tourism icon. So basically, we need accessibility. So right now, we are very limited in this aspect. Even sometimes costs are very high. And we also have to look some factors like via Kuala Lumpur, connectivity sometimes is not there. So airlines has to play some roles, like, for instance, Malaysia Airlines, Air Asia, our national carriers. But they have to look at connectivities. We should not let our customers spend too much time at the airports.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, I'll get to Warum shortly after this. We go for a second commercial break. Back in a bit. Stay with us. Hi, you're still watching a special discussion on Agenda Awani leading up to the budget 2014, and we want to look at this last segment, how we can incentivize business people and also like SME, smaller players, to help boost the tourism sector. And earlier, Haji Hamzah, you were just talking about some of your wish lists. I'll let you continue. You mentioned about accessibility, about transportation. What else?
Okay, particularly on the transportations. I did mention just now, I think we have to do away with all the taxes and excise and whatsoever, especially for tourism vehicle. It should be zero. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that we should be allowed to permit, we should allow to have import permit for special made vehicles, which is more for tourists. For instance, like the Toyota Commuter. And because this is really the in thing in terms of comfort, etc., and whatsoever. In that respect, we really appreciate if the government could allow a special permits on the APs, especially for that, as well as the four-wheel drive for especially for Sabah and Sarawak. We need the four-wheel drive for ecotourism, for adventure tourism. These are all the special vehicles permits that we require. And also at the same time, we also need the CBU coaches APs. Because CBU coaches, which is being built overseas, they comes with the latest high-tech braking system. This is more safety for the tourists, for our customers actually. So this is actually a good thing for Malaysia to have, okay, on that. And at the same time, we have to, these vehicles at the moment comes with a very high insurance because everything is all lumped as one, because they don't have any special categories for tourism vehicles. But we tourism vehicles, we don't move like what the express buses or bus kilang, etc., especially the bus express. We don't run so extensively as they are. In fact, for tourism vehicles, we probably runs about 15 to 20 days in a month. And on top of that, at the most, we run between 4 to 5 hours on the roads.
So you mean that you need a different category for
we
this
it should
specific
be,
tourism vehicle?
It should be lower, and it should be. And then if you look, if we really goes into statistics-wise and whatsoever, how many accidents do the tourism? I mean, does the bus persiaran had in a year? But unfortunately, we don't have the real thing. But these are relevant factors, and these are actually affecting. And this actually, because of the high insurance, it brings the cost of operations high. And therefore, cost of package also high. If this can be lowered, then, all this can be advantage. And we probably see more tourist operators from Malaysia and right now. Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing is that the tourism vehicles, we hope to see that at least the government give us a special fund. I mean, maybe for a start, 50 millions, to start off for purchases of tourism vehicles, for the sake of tourism vehicles. This, at least with the low cost of fund, our members can actually invest in high quality vehicles. Otherwise, it's quite difficult. Because
so it's a lot to do with lowering the operating costs in the transportation.
Yes, because once everything is high, because for us we have to put in everything. When everything is high, then the cost becomes high. The cost of the package cost becomes high. So we wish to see that all this can be actually lowered, so that at the end of the day, the tourists, the Malaysian package becomes lower, it becomes more attractive and more
competitive
and more
value for the players.
Yes, more competitive and more value for money.
Okay.
In that aspects.
Well, Harun, as a young entrepreneur running a business, you mentioned about capital, but apart from that,
first I want to add a little bit on what just now about the tourism vehicles. I completely agree with that, because I think with having a better vehicles, it can actually help us to design more unique tourism products. For example, if we look at Sabah and Sarawak themselves, Sabah and Sarawak are very unique and very adventurous locations. We can actually design a overland camping trip if we can get the fund to actually import big trucks that can do this type of trips.
To improve accessibility to these places.
It would be very interesting. But on my part, as a young entrepreneur, in terms of the next budget, of course, first, tax exemption. What I'm aware of, there's a tax exemption given to travels and tours operators. So I hope the same thing can be given to, especially like a startup business people who are in the hospitalities industry, like hotels, budget accommodation, backpackers hostels. And at the same time, I would love to see the government to spend more on the safety, because if I talk more on the backpackers travelers, they tend to travel on their own. They tend to explore many places by themselves. So safety and security are very important, because we don't want to have a bad reviews about our country, because it will definitely affect the
everything will be on tripadvisor.com.
Yes.
So
Hostel
image is very important.
Yes.
Right. Thank you so much, Harun, and thank you, Haji Hamzah, for joining us. And thank you for watching this special edition of Agenda Awani. And stay tuned throughout the week. We're bringing you more special reports leading up to the budget 2014 announcement this Friday. And if any question, queries, feedback, drop us a line on Facebook or our Twitter at 501 Awani, or YouTube, on our Instagram as well. Or you can go to our website, astroawani.com. And thank you again for watching. I'll see you again. Good evening and good night. Bye-bye.